And we're live. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are, whenever you get to watch this. This is the first ever live episode of the Legends podcast. I've got some very, very special guests in with me tonight. But before I introduce them, we're going to run some titles. Hey, we're back. I'll just explain a little bit about that intro. I made that off a website called Canva, and I was under the impression if you use music, it's all right because it's on there. And I got pinged by YouTube saying you'll never be able to monetize this video, copyright infringements. But I've got 84 subscribers, so I don't think there's any fear of that anytime soon. I'll also explain my eye. I've got this mad sty at the moment, and I've got like half vision in my right eye, so I just get in the room dealt with there. But without further ado, I will introduce my guests. Firstly, to my right, presumably on the screen, is Mr. Jake Clegg from Arsenal Analysed. How are you, Jake?
Very, very well, thank you. It's Sunday evening here in the UK, and it's all right. I'm not doing too bad. Getting ready for a day of work tomorrow. How about yourself?
Yeah, about the same, really. Cooking roasts and taking the dog for a walk. Didn't go to the pictures like you did, unfortunately. But yeah, I'm ready for work tomorrow. I'm working from home, so it's not too bad. I can have a little bit of a later one tonight. But thank you for asking. And down at the bottom of the screen, we've got my man Neil in Florida. How are you, mate?
I am doing good, my guy. How are you doing?
Yeah, not bad at all. Looking forward to this. Been looking forward to this for ages, to be honest.
Yes, absolutely. It's good to be back a little bit.
Yes, it's good to see you back as well. So you had a good day?
Yeah, today has been a really good day. Took the daughter to the trampoline park, me and the wife, and just watched her jump up and down and run into other kids. And it's good to see kids being able to clash into each other without having to worry about COVID. Yeah. Meaning that, there is still COVID, but it's still a little bit, restrictions are kind of dropping here in the US.
Yeah, it's nice to get back. It really is. And last but by no means least is my man Tony, also in Florida. We've got a real transatlantic feel tonight. How are you, my man?
I'm good, man. Huge thank you for letting me participate in this, man. It's a real honor. And I'm just trying to survive here and still going to psychiatric therapy after having to pay $4,299 in taxes yesterday, plus a couple of other things. So that was fun.
So you have to do that all yourself. See, mine just goes out in my wages once a month, so it's not quite so bad, but clearly it's different over there.
Yeah, actually, I was thinking about just starting to rob a couple banks nearby, and that would probably solve it.
Yeah, I think that's sound move. Mate.
I'm right there with you, Tony. We'll link up.
Before we crack into it, obviously there's one guest who can't be with us tonight, John. He's had a family emergency to attend to. So on behalf of all of us, just like to wish all the best, John, and I hope everything gets sorted out as easily and soon as it can do. But moving on, this is what we're here for. The Legends. I want to hear so much stuff from you guys about your thoughts on Legends. I'll just do a quick backstory. The idea for this came to me, it wasn't long after Auba went to Barcelona and Lee Dixon put a tweet and he got absolutely beasted by loads of people for it. And it got me thinking, how do you define what a legend is? And I put a tweet out with a picture of Lee Dixon saying this is what a legend looks like. And it got so much traction. And I thought this is something that we could potentially, do some more content on. Mm-hmm. And I did one show where I looked into how you define a legend. Obviously, it's totally subjective. Everyone's got their own ideas. But for my way of thinking, it's about longevity, success, and conduct. Those are the three main criteria. There's obviously lots of other criteria, and other people will perhaps see it differently. But as this is my show, those are the criteria that I look at. But obviously, if you guys got anything else to add to it, feel free to chuck it all in. But that is the backstory to why I decided to start doing this. And all things being well, it's the sort of thing that can go on for ages and ages, because there are so many people that can be discussed. And what we're going to do tonight is we're going to break it down into 3 sections. Now, the first section I've called Random Legend. It can be literally anyone, like a politician, a musician, a movie star, somebody you know from your own life, literally anyone you can think of. And then the second one is global legend, again around sport, but somebody who you think has really transcended their sport and has just had that status for the reasons of success and longevity, and literally being almost bigger than their sport on certain occasions. And then the final segment will be Arsenal legends. So without further ado, we will crack on with Random Legend. And I'm going to come to you first on that one, Jake. Hit me with it.
So yeah, these, well, as you mentioned, they're three very good questions. And when you approached, well, all of us, well, feels like ages ago now about this, I've literally been sat here twiddling my thumbs and fingers, wondering, you know, who to pick for all three of these sections. And like you said, you know, the word legend is so hard to define because, you know, everyone will have a different view on what a legend is and the reasons for why behind it. And I was looking at it and I was like, you mentioned politicians. I'm not really into politics.
No.
Don't get me wrong, I watch movies and listen to music and stuff like that. But I feel like my first one is a little bit of a cop-out. The old man for me. He's been there for me, you know, a really, really, really long time. Helped me get into football. As well. You know, he's the reason I support Arsenal, for example. He's always supported me financially, been there for my kids as a grandparent. I think it's pretty self-explanatory in terms of, you know, what a parent should or shouldn't do. But for me, that's my legend as number one. As I said, it could be a bit of a cop out. You know, I could have gone for some sort of famous, shiny superstar in a movie or a musician or something like that. But for me, number one random superstar legend is the old man.
I think that means a lot more than it being, say, a favourite movie star or a favourite musician. That's real stuff there. And yeah, I think that means a lot more. Thank you for that, Jake. That's appreciated.
Thank you.
I'm going to move next to Neil. What about you, mate?
Oh man, I like Jake. I don't know about Jake, but in terms of me for the random legend, I thought about many people. Mother Teresa, these type of names. Even Princess Diane came out because I remember watching Princess Diane, all the stuff that she was doing for the people. And then came her death. And I remember waking up at 5 a.m. in Trinidad to watch the funeral. But as of late, and you guys know this, my father passed away. And he would be my legend for this section. And why would I choose him is because, I mean, it would be there's a big stigma on men and parenting and taking care of their kids. A lot of men tend to not stand up to that responsibility or be accountable. I have to say that my father was not one of those people. He took care of 4 kids, raised them up into adulthood, and it was tough. My mom always reminded us he worked for a company called Unilever. I'm not sure if you guys heard of it. He was a forklift driver. So before Unilever, it was Lever Brothers. And he was a forklift driver there, raising 4 kids on that salary. And he was a part-time worker for almost 10 years. So there were days that he would go and there's nothing to do. So he had to head back home. But he ended up becoming permanent. So he was there from 1982 to 2020. So, being on that, being able to raise 4 kids and guide them, thankfully, none of us ended up in jail or had to rob people or going down the criminal path or the drugs path or anything like that. Yes, my mom is there. She's the woman of the house, but at the same time, he was that father figure for us. So similar sentiments to Jake. Unfortunately, he's no longer here. He's a Man United fan. So as a remembrance for him, I watch Man United games as an Arsenal fan. But he's no longer here. He passed away in February, as you guys know, and he's my random legend.
Thank you, mate. That's big stuff, and that can't have been easy for you to talk about. So much appreciated. That's really, really big stuff. Thanks, mate. Moving on to you, Mr. Tony. Who's yours?
Yeah, this was a little bit more of a difficult one for me, as I actually had a runner-up to go with the actual legend that I chose. But just as a quick mention for my runner-up, it would have been Steve Irwin, just because of the all the work that he did with the animals, which for me is it's a particularly strong subject because I do love animals. I've been raised around animals. When I was in Puerto Rico, we didn't have a farm, but it was pretty close to it. We had a lot of different kinds of animals there. But that was my runner-up. The one that I actually did select as my random legend was a gentleman by the name of Farouk Bulsara. You guys might know him by his stage name when he was performing as Freddie Mercury from
Yes.
the band Queen. Now, my reason for this is, besides a big animal lover and stuff like that, I am also a huge music junkie. Music actually helped me, especially during my teenage years, through some of the worst times of my life. A lot of the depression that I went through that I never spoke about, and I still don't speak about to this day. But music was one of those things that was always there. And in Freddie Mercury's case, besides all of the music that he did with Queen, his own personal project that he did, and the other bands that he was with, that man was a genuine performer. He lived to perform. That's what he loved to do, all the way up until the day of his death when he died. And for me, that's one of those things that I have so much respect and appreciation for all the time that he dedicated. So for me, it's kind of cheesy, but that's for me, he was a bit of a legend. So that's my take on it.
That's brilliant. I love that. It's not cheesy at all. The fact that you like to the fact that stuff like this helped you through a worse time in your life. That's really really big, and I'm so happy. Like everything that all three of you have said is. It's not cheesy. None of it's cheesy. It's real stuff, and it's really important stuff that's important to you at important times of your life as well. So I think that's amazing, and you've all blown me away a little bit. I didn't expect that sort of stuff. So thank you very much. The first ever question segment on Legends Live, and that is awesome. On now, what I probably should do actually, I always feel a bit awkward doing this bit, but I'm going to do it anyway with the whole if you like the video, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you want to. I feel like saying, if you don't want to, don't, just go on to something else. It's fine. But yeah, and if you do want to subscribe, make sure you hit the notification bell so you don't miss anything else in the future. But then I'm going to put that back to have your lovely details there, because I think that's way more important. Right, so the next section is Global Legend. And for this one, I'm going to jump straight back on you, Tony.
Yeah.
Global Sporting Legend. Who have you got, mate?
This one was actually kind of a tough one because there's a lot to choose from. But in my particular case, I chose this gentleman for the reason that I actually did get to see him live when he was here during the NBA playoffs back in the mid-90s. If you haven't guessed by now, I am talking about Michael Jeffrey Jordan. Michael Jordan from the Chicago Bulls. Really, what else could possibly be said about this man that hasn't already been discussed? He's a five-time the Finals MVP. The man got 32,292 points, I believe it was, in his entire career. So massive amount. He was a six-time NBA champion. And it goes just beyond what he actually managed to do on the hard court. It was the fact that he was also, just besides being a Hall of Famer, the man was also a businessman, to the point where he actually transcended the sport and also played baseball. Not so good at the baseball thing. Basketball was really his thing, but he did do that as well. He was also spokesperson for a lot of the companies like Coca-Cola. He came out in a movie. He was actually an actor for just that particular role. And I think the other thing that he's extremely famous for are the brand of shoes, the Air Jordans, which have become literally another global brand. So in my particular case, it's Michael Jordan really did transcend the sport in a lot of ways like Kobe Bryant did, because he did so much of a lot of other things in life that he really just became a giant in the sporting world.
That's a nice one. I have to say I'm more of a Kobe fan than I'm an MJ fan, but
Yeah.
that's how I fell into the Lakers. But you cannot argue the fact that Jordan's a GOAT. I love LeBron as well, but I don't think anybody's ever going to reach the level that Michael Jordan reached in NBA in the 90s. It was just absolutely phenomenal. That's a great choice. Mr. Clegg, what do you got?
So similar to Tony, not in terms of sport, but in terms of, it's quite easy to go back to a time before I was born and look at, legends and heroes of different sports and stuff like that. And as I mentioned, for the random legend, my family is very heavily football orientated, but it doesn't mean, that we haven't and don't watch sports, outside of football, like cricket, for example, boxing, among other things. But probably a name that people weren't expecting, because he still is involved in sport now. But Tyson Fury, for me, is absolutely huge, mainly because of what he did after he so-called retired from the sport after winning all the belts from Klitschko in Germany. He obviously went through a really serious period of depression for a couple of years, and he speaks about it so often publicly and tries to help people with it now. And to do what he's done, and I know there are a lot of comparisons to Muhammad Ali, which I don't necessarily agree with because the circumstances were completely different. And I think what Muhammad Ali went through at that time was far more significant. But it's just what Fury does now, both inside and outside of sport, especially with raising awareness for mental health. And the fact that he's now on the cusp of potentially coming back and winning all of the belts again within the next couple of years, to be able to do that from where the place he was in and the weight that he gained and the mental state that he was in to get to where he is now, for me, is absolutely phenomenal. Not only a legend, but a huge role model to people who are in really, really difficult situations at the moment.
That's awesome. I love the fact that you picked Tyson Fury. And I like the fact, as you correctly said, it doesn't have to be somebody who's not performing anymore. He's already got that legendary status for the exact reasons that you said about. And I'm fairly certain in the States, the first fight against Deontay Wilder, where he was out, and he was out cold.
Yeah.
I thought that was it. And the fact that he got back up and got a draw out of that fight. And he is, without doubt, the best in the world by a country mile. And I don't think Joshua's got enough for him. I don't think Usyk will have enough for him. And personally, I'd love to see him get all the belts back again. What an absolute journey that guy's been on. It's fairy tale stuff. If someone wrote that script, like, that'd be daft.
Yeah.
Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, he is. The guy is literally a legend already. I love that one. Thanks for that, Jake.
My pleasure.
Neil, my man, what do you got?
What's going on? So my global legend would be Harry Kane. No, I didn't know that. No. So for my global sport and legend, I chose Brian Charles Lara, my countryman.
Yes.
For those who don't know, he's a cricketing legend. He pulls, I don't know, 11,000, almost 12,000 runs for Test, and almost 10,500 runs in the one-day international career. It's a pity that we didn't get to see him in the T20 form for the cricketing junkies out there, because I think he would have been something special to watch and to witness that, to see. I remember as a little boy watching him break the 375, which Sir Gary Griffith put in. No, was it Sobers or Griffith?
Sobers, yeah.
Sober, yeah. He put in place and he broke that. And I remember standing on the side of the streets when they paraded him through the streets of Trinidad, when he and Shivnarine Chanderpaul partnered in that record-breaking runs of 375. And then Matthew Hayden came back and broke that record. And then he came in 2004 and broke that record again. Like, that is, to me, you don't get to see that again in any lifetime. You won't, not by one sportsman. And he was just something to watch. You waking up 3-4 o'clock in the morning to watch this guy bat in Australia or New Zealand, depending on what time zone you were in. Like, I don't think any generation younger than I am would be willing to wake up in those wee hours of the morning to lose sleep to watch cricket, especially Test cricket.
Yeah.
So these are the things that, to me, grant him a global legend in my book. I know he didn't go on to do too much things in the business world, in the business sector and stuff, but what he left behind, those memories, and to know that chances are you're not going to ever get to see that again or get that feeling to watch this guy come out and bat. It's something else, man. So mines would be Brian Charles Lara.
I love that. I love Lara. And I also, I mean, he obviously spent a lot of time playing first-class cricket for, I think it was Warwickshire he played for when he was
Yes.
over here.
501 runs.
Yeah, that's the one. And he was the one everybody wanted to see. Absolute global superstar. He truly transcended the game at that time. And I'm probably not too unfair in saying he wasn't playing for the best West Indies side at that time either. So I mean, think what could have been achieved if he'd been playing back, I don't know, in the 80s when you got Viv Richards and the rest of them playing, if he was part of that team. And I think that makes him an even bigger star. The fact that he was ahead of everyone.
I wasn't around to watch them, but that West Indies team that dominated back in the 80s, 70s, if you will. Four Horsemen, Malcolm Marshalls and the Michael Holden, you used to call Michael Holden Whispering Death.
One when he the fast bowler, Joel Garner.
Garner, yeah. So it's a pity that he wasn't around. Yeah, it's a pity that he wasn't around such a strong team, but they still did a lot of damage. Did a lot of damage.
That's an absolutely brilliant choice. Absolutely brilliant choice. I'm just checking the time. I've got one that I'm going to throw in, but this kind of ties into a global sporting legend and a random one as well. Now, the guy I've picked, he's probably not remembered for absolute sporting excellence, but it's Colin Kaepernick. And I've chosen him. There's a few reasons I've chosen this. Obviously, when he chose to stay sat on the bench for the national anthem in 2016, and it didn't go down very well in a lot of sections. It was seen as very, very disrespectful. But the thing that amazed me was there was a guy who was prepared. He knew his career was going to be cancelled off the back of this. He must have done. And he was prepared to sacrifice that for something he believed in. And he did say it was about endemic racism and police brutality. And I mean, I don't know how the States took it. You guys probably know a lot better than I do. I'm just seeing it from a distance, and I don't know all the ins and outs of all the social intricacies. But it's just the fact there's this guy who's prepared to sacrifice his career for something he believes in, very much like Jake alluded to Muhammad Ali when he refused to go to Vietnam. It was it's all sacrifices that people are prepared to make. But the other person I wanted to mention is Nate Boyer. He's a former Green Beret, and he had one season as a kicker for the Seattle Seahawks. And he wrote an open letter to Colin Kaepernick saying how much he disagreed with what he was doing. It was disrespectful with what he was doing. So you got two people who are absolute opposite ends of the spectrum, and they decided to meet up and have a chat. Now, we all see this every day on social media. You see it. People, they can't come together with a difference of opinions and respect the other person's opinion. It's I'm right, I'm right, I'm right. And they got together. They were literal opposite ends. And from what I understand, Nate Boyer said, I think you should stand. And Colin Kaepernick said, I'm not going to stand. What I will do is take a knee. And that was off the back of Nate Boyer saying, this is what the military do when a comrade's fallen. You've got the rifle with the bayonet with a hat on top of it, boots in front of it, and they'll take a knee to show their respects. So then he started doing that. And then the whole movement started. And you've still got footballers in the Premier League 6 years later doing the same thing. And I just think Colin Kaepernick is and Nate Boyer are both worth mentioning for all of those reasons. So that's mine. I'm not going to do an Arsenal one because I like boring you with my pre-recorded videos. But we will move on. Oh, we got a comment. We got a comment. Good evening, Lottie. How are you? Right, so we're going to move on to our final segment, which is Arsenal legend. I'm going to stop doing that super voice. That's getting on my nerves. So it must be getting on yours as well.
No,
and for this
no,
one, I am going to start with my good man, Neil.
what's going on?
Yeah, have you?
Say that again?
I'm going to start with you. Arsenal legends. You haven't been first yet, have you?
No, not yet.
Cool.
So my legend came from when I started watching Arsenal play, which was just around 1997. That's when I got cable, so we was able to actually watch the games. But just to let you guys know, literally all of Trinidad and Tobago was more or less a Manchester United supporting country because of Dwight York. If you guys remember Andy Cole and Dwight York, one of the most deadliest strike pairings to this date. So United fans take that win. But for me, what really stood out for me was Dennis Bergkamp of Arsenal. And to this day, I cannot, not even Thierry Henry could give me that feeling of what next is he going to do with the ball. That's gonna blow my mind. He always talked about he can tell a player by their first touch, and it's beyond immaculate. His first touch, though that spin around versus Newcastle, the in hanging in midair and for some strange reason the ball seemed to just stick to his boot, and he brought it down. Like, you don't see that. He had the nickname Iceman because he was that smooth. And for me, it's a pity that we don't see a player of his caliber anymore. Hopefully we'll see something like that in the likes of Smith Rowe. But as of right now, when he came from Inter Milan to Arsenal, that was probably one of the biggest top 5 signings of Arsenal's history. And I'm saying that without apology.
Top man. I can only applaud you for that. One of my most unpopular opinions when everyone, when we were in our pomp back in the Invincibles times, Dennis was always my favourite player. I always thought he was a better player than Thierry Henry. Maybe that's just because that's the way I look at football. But I was in Spain the day we signed Dennis Bergkamp. And this was in the days where there was no internet. All you had was a day-old copy of the Sun newspaper to see what the sports headlines were. And I'm sat there with my Arsenal shorts, and I've looked at this back page, and I was grinning from ear to ear. And these 2 Scousers come past, and they've literally gone, "What the fuck they signed him for? Or what's he fucking signed for them for?" And then his mate nudged him, and he's gone, "Look at his shorts." I went, "Oh, sorry, mate, good signing," and just walked off. But he's probably, I was lucky enough to see him play like in the stadium, and made a point of looking at what he does off the ball. And you see probably 50-60% of what he does on telly, but when you're actually there in the stadium, just seeing the movement, positions he takes up, the way he's talking to other players, the effect that he has on the opposition, just the fact that he's there, as much as having 2 players, and without doubt the best player I ever saw play. No.
One other thing, I remember watching an interview with Henry. This is while he was still playing, and he had to he had to make a comment on what Dennis was like in training, and he was like, he's brutal, he's an ass, he's a beast. And it goes to show like the mentality where it was when it went down, and it seems to be climbing back up. I'm hoping and praying that that's the mentality that there is in training right now with those guys. But he seemed to be such a classy guy, just watching him, just not ever speaking to him, nothing like that. But to know he was ready to get dirty in the training camp, means that when it comes to the 90 minutes that they need to be playing, he's gonna put it all out there for the club.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a comment from Lottie here. Greatest Bergkamp memory is throwing the ball back at him at Highbury.
Wow.
That's amazing. I never got to do that. That is
That's
awesome.
amazing. You're very lucky, Lottie.
And she was about 8 then. Little Lottie at the age of 8. Nice one. Cheers for that, lots. Right, Tony, what do you got for us, mate? Arsenal legend.
Yeah, pulled out the shovel and started digging kind of deep for this one, man. I went all the way back to the 1930s for this.
Yes.
The particular gentleman that I'm talking about here is one Edward Joseph Drake, also known as Ted Drake. Probably one of the things that he is the most well known for, besides being, I think he was the fifth or joint fifth highest goal scorer for Arsenal. It would have to be that infamous game in 1935 against Aston Villa, where Arsenal did win 7-1. However, the 7 goals came from Ted Drake. He scored all 7 of them. Granted, there was no VAR back then, so we don't actually know really if really, because half of those goals could have been half of those could have been offside. You know, an armpit hair or something like that was over the line. But as it stands, it was 7-1, and Ted Drake did score those 7 points. Now, besides from that, he was actually, if I'm remembering right, he was the quickest one to reach 100 goals for Arsenal. I think he did it in 108 games. So that was ridiculous. Yeah. Again, yeah, this is the 1930s. There's no VAR, but still, the fact that it was at this particular time and he did it was fantastic. I think it really does fit somewhat into the criteria of what Keith had mentioned about the longevity, the conduct on the field, and how they left the club as well. Can't really say too much about the conduct. I don't really know a lot about his personality, but you know, what he did manage to accomplish at Arsenal was pretty incredible. And it wasn't so much that he retired because he wanted to. He did have to stop playing essentially because he got a spinal cord injury. I believe it was in mid 1940s, around there. But there were a lot of other accomplishments that he also did while he was with the club, which was, you know, it was pretty interesting to see that. So for me, but I think that the 7 goals was that's ridiculous. That's his own version of the Invincibles, pretty much. So that's why I had to really kind of look for this individual. That was really, really neat to read up on him. That
is awesome, and I've got to thank you from the bottom of my heart for the research that you've done on that. That's next level
well
stuff.
Done.
That's 1930s. That's like Herbert Chapman times.
Yeah,
presumably would have been his manager. I was not expecting that at all, but I love that you did that. Thank you, Tony. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Jake, the Prince of Wales. I was going to when I introduced you earlier, I was going to Prince of Wales. I totally forgot. So you're Prince of Wales now.
So yeah, it's difficult, this one, as all of us being Arsenal fans, we could sit here and talk about Arsenal legends, or no doubt. But being born in the 80s, predominantly, you know, my Arsenal life has been Arsene Wenger from sort of mid to late 90s to 2000s, and growing up, I would say that someone I looked up to quite a lot, who is not who I'm going to go with, was Freddie Ljungberg, because I used to play as a winger back then. In my younger days, and believe it or not, when I had hair, I used to have the same hairstyle as him, the same color.
There's got to be some pictures of that somewhere.
I'm sure we can dig some out. We've both got the same good looks as well, as you can see. And so I was thinking about that at first, and then I was thinking to myself, well, no, he's more of my role model than a legend. And then I was thinking to the Emirates era then as well, and who my favourite player of the Emirates era was. And for me personally, it has to be Santi Cazorla. But again, looking at that, I was thinking, well, no, he's not really a legend. So I really, really had to scrape the bottom of the barrel, scrape my thoughts, really kind of think about it. And eventually, in my mid-20s, I moved through to centre midfield, an absolute dog of a player. And one player that I looked up to quite a lot was Patrick Vieira. And more recently, I'm sure most Arsenal fans will have seen the evening with Arsene and David Dein, as well as the Invincibles movie. And I have to agree with Arsene Wenger. The best signing that he ever made as Arsenal manager was Patrick Vieira. And he came to the country as a young Frenchman, didn't know the language. And I think in the evening with Arsene and David Dein, I've just seen the comment.
You see the last one? We've got to go back to that.
But yeah, even with the evening with Arsene and David Dein, like he said that there will never be a player like Patrick Vieira again. The box midfield player that was Patrick Vieira. Thomas Partey has been compared to him, but he literally transformed Arsenal. And I think that when you look at the titles that he won at Arsenal, the cups, you name it, if you take Patrick Vieira out the spine of that team, it's nowhere near the same. And for me, Patrick Vieira is one of the biggest Arsenal legends in my lifetime, at least.
I absolutely agree with you on that. And weirdly enough, I remember his debut. I don't know why I remember it, but I remember it was a Monday night. We were playing Sheffield Wednesday at home, and I think we won 4-1 in the end. And Vieira came on as a substitute, and it was just, what was he, like 21, 22 at the time?
Really young,
yeah. No one's heard of the kid. And, you know, by all accounts, you know, if you, depending on who you listen to, he's like bombed out in Italy. So we've probably picked him up cheap and, you know, he's maybe a bit of a reject. But instantly, first touch of the ball, it's like, wow, how have we found this kid? He's like 21 and he was bossing the game from his first touch. And I don't know why I remember that, but I thought it was pertinent to mention that because I absolutely agree with you in what you've said and agreeing with Arsene Wenger about the best signing he's made, and probably is the best signing that I can remember us making for the money that was paid for him, which was minimal. What was it, like 5 or 6 million, something ridiculous?
Hardly anything.
And, you know, he did transform the team, and without him, we probably wouldn't have been the Invincibles, if we're being brutally honest about it, because it was the way he played the game, but his presence. So like, all of a sudden, there was somebody to stick up to Roy Keane. And
those battles with Roy Keane. Oh,
yeah.
Oh, that's classic.
You know,
that's a classic.
If you look at the pair of them, you would think that Roy Keane would win that fight hands down. But Patrick never, ever backed down from anyone. And that transmitted through the players. And I think it was, you, Neil, said it just now about how, you know, how in training, Dennis Bergkamp was a beast and like training was proper physical. It was like proper game time. And it looks like we're going back to that again now. But Patrick Vieira was a big reason for that. Bear in mind, he's playing in a team with people like Martin Keown, you know, Patrick Vieira, Dennis Bergkamp, Steve Bold, Tony Adams. You know, these are all tough lads. Emmanuel Petit and Gilberto Silva in the late days. That was a really, really tough team. And for Patrick Vieira to be standing there, you know, as captain later on after Tony had moved on, that shows the mettle of the man, and it's about more than just his playing talent, but just the absolute character of him. And when you look at the clips, like the old YouTube reels, you know, we always joke that our mums could be on these YouTube reels and look like decent footballers. If you ever watch a Patrick Vieira one, it's next level, because the skill, and he'll just flick a foot out and he'll flick the ball over a player and then he'll turn and he's already gone. Like his balance and his agility for somebody who must have been 6'3" at least, almost as tall as you, Jake, I would imagine. You know, he had the lot. He had the absolute lot. But they're great choices. I've really enjoyed this. I think.
Can I just add something on Patrick Vieira? I would like to say that the missing element to our 2006 UCL final versus Barcelona was Patrick Vieira. I would say that. I would say that he was a massive miss in that final. When he left Arsenal to go to, was it Inter Milan?
Juventus.
Juve, I think.
Juve. Where we did meet up again. We did meet up during that time, and we played against that Juventus side with him in it. I think if he was a part of that Arsenal team, playing that Barcelona team, that prime Pep Barcelona with the Eto'o and the Ronaldinho's and all of these fantastic players, up and coming Messi, I think we would have been able to do something special in that and maybe be Champions League, hold a Champions League title as a club.
And at the end of the day, any team with Patrick Vieira in it at that time was a much, much better team. But I think he had a point to prove in Italy because it didn't work out for him when he was at Inter. And he was always going to go back. I think that's kind of when we started throwing the armband at players when they looked like they were leaving as well. It's like, here, have the armband. And then did the same with Cesc and then RVP and the rest of them. But yeah, I think
I just want to make sure that we're all still Arsenal supporters, right? We're not switching to Crystal Palace tomorrow.
No. We love him, but not that much.
All right, let's make sure. Let's make
sure
that
to me now, Tony. He's dead.
Tomorrow.
He's dead.
But 90 minutes tomorrow night. That's it. He's no one. He might as well be a Spurs player, to be honest.
I actually had the pleasure of shaking gentleman's hand. He was in Trinidad. His wife was Trinidadian. Worked in the building that had the French embassy in it, and they were visiting and they had to go there for some reason. And I had an Arsenal jacket on me that day, and I was inside the lobby just waiting like a little 6-year-old, you know. And he signed the jacket. I still have it, and shake the guy's hand. The man himself. It's crazy. It's crazy how it happened.
Awesome.
Very, very lucky. I had an embarrassing one, actually. I did my work experience at Highbury for 2 weeks when I was 15. And in the last 2 days of my work experience, the guy that I was working with, it was a guy in his 50s. I was only 15 at the time. And he was like, oh, one of my mates is coming round in about 10, 15 minutes. Really famous Arsenal player. He said, you might know who he is. And I was putting shelves up in the shop at the time. And he came round and he shook my hand. And I just thought it was some random bloke. And he was like, don't you recognise him? It was Charlie George.
Was it really?
It was Charlie George. And I was mega embarrassed afterwards. And the guy that I was working with turned around to me and was like, go home and ask your old man who he is. You might know.
Oh, wow.
I was so embarrassed. Charlie bloody George.
You weren't tonight. If he'd have laid down with a yellow top on, you'd have probably recognised him. Oh, yeah, Charlie George, I know now. These things happen, don't they? So we're just about done. Has anyone got anything else they want to add to anything?
Oh, man, this was an amazing invite, Keith. Thank you so much. That's what I would like to say.
This was the only way
Brilliant show.
Do the first show. Obviously, it would have been nicer if John was here as well, but obviously our thoughts with him. I suppose I'll tie up by saying do not forget to, hang on, let me get my banner up. I'm such an amateur, this is ridiculous. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notifications bell if you believe it is right that you do so. But what we're going to do, obviously, I want to thank all three of you for coming on this first live show. It really means a lot to have you guys here with me because I'm a bit rubbish at live presenting at the moment. I was a bit nervous, and I keep going, right, what do I press now? What do I press now? Looking at a mobile phone. But no, it does mean the world to me that you've all come along. So now it's the time where you get to plug yourselves. So, Mr. Clegg, you're up.
Well, before I do that, I just want to say thank you very much for inviting me on for the very first episode of Legends. Absolute honour. And you've done yourself an injustice there as well. You know, you're absolutely fantastic. You've been absolutely brilliant tonight as a host, Keith. Absolute natural.
Oh,
so I can't wait to see many more and some of the other guests that you invite on in the future. But absolute pleasure. And I run a channel called Arsenal Analysed. It's in the name. I analyse everything related to Arsenal. So if you fancy some of that, come over and check it out. Thank you very much, Keith.
No worries, mate. And thank you again for coming on. I can only echo what Jake said. If you like your football analysis, your tactical breakdowns, and just general intelligent footballing talk, definitely have a look at Arsenal Analysed. And the bloke's machine. If you can keep up with it, he puts about 57 videos out a week. I struggle really badly. But yeah, no, definitely have a look at that. Neil, tell the people about yourself. Where can they find you?
What's going on? So thank you again, the host with the most, Mr. Keith. Natural abilities, man. And big up to, I like to call him Mr. You know, we have Mr. Arsenal, we have Mr. Analyze, Mr. Jake Clegg. You know, yeah, man. Always looking forward to when he drops his analyzing videos about, you know, Arsenal and whatnot. You can find me right now. The channel's name is Canon FC. Thinking about rebranding, so you know, you guys look out for that. And if you don't mind me suggesting something here, Keith, I'd like, you know, for whoever watched this video, leave in the comments who are your legends and why are they your legends. Leave it in the comments. You know, share this information, and hopefully, you know, we can make this thing blow up. What do you think about that, Keith?
Do you know what? That's a great idea, and I've got absolutely no problem with you making suggestions like that. That's awesome. And I mean, the plan is this goes on indefinitely, and this is not the last time I'll have you guys on. As I said in the week, there are so many people that you can pick from different areas, like all the 3 different sections. I think it can just go on forever and ever and ever.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to your rebranding.
it's one of those type of conversations.
I really, really like that. And I have to say, you have the coolest voice on the internet. And anyone that wouldn't want to see one of your shows is wrong with them.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you,
And
mate.
share this content, people. Share.
Tony, where can they find you, mate?
Yeah, I just dwell every once in a while on Twitter, so you could just find me there. Judge Read the Law. Mostly just a positive individual trying to give a little bit of a more upbeat vibe around the club and to spread a little bit of positivity to the rest of the supporters. If you are watching this right now, if you have not hit that subscribe button right now, or if you have not hit the like button right now, what you need to do is do exactly what Arsenal do to Tottenham and just batter it and smash it all over the place. Do that. Make sure you do that. And definitely give a big time follow to the rest of these gentlemen here to Neil's channel, as well as to Jake's channel. These guys are they actually are my Arsenal legends, are these guys right here, along with John, along with Lottie, and all the other people that are watching. You guys are spectacular, and I am 100% privileged to actually be supporting the club and to get to know people just like you guys.
Thank you very much, Tony. Literally one of the nicest people I know. And I think anyone else who knows you would say the same thing about your positivity. Your shirt collection is
yes. It's a legendary shirt collection.
You have to start renting storage for those.
He's only got a couple, innit? Not many. Not many.
Not a lot, just a little.
Yeah, just a few hundred.
Just a few, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
no, if I got to repay my taxes the way that I had to pay the taxes this year, I'm gonna have to sell like half the shirts, dude.
No,
yeah,
that was rough.
We're still waiting for you to do a channel on the shirts. You know that. Anyway, on that note, it's time for us to bid you all good night. Thank you all those of you for watching. If you watch it live or if you're watching it back, thank you to my wonderful guests, and we will be back soon. Have a good night, morning or afternoon, whatever you're up to. We'll catch you next time. Ta-da.
Peace.